Well, if you could guess from the title, I am an African American. I grew up in West Africa and came to America to study on a student visa to attend university. I have always been a high achieving student in my home country. Before my senior year in secondary school, my teacher encouraged me to take an exam provided by the U.S. Department of State Professional Fellows Program. The exam was so easy, and after taking the exam, I thought it was a joke. I didn't seriously think that I would get an academic scholarship to study in the United States. 2 months later, after taking the exam, I was at home when a man from DHL knocked on our gate and handed me a letter. I opened it, and the rest is history. Now, I am in the United States on a 4 year scholarship in an Ivy League school. Who would have thought a kid from a humble beginning in a remote place in West Africa would be elevated above his peers? Everything was paid for, my school fees and boarding, and I was given a stipend to spend on food and a job to work on campus. It was sufficient for me at the time, and I had gratitude for the opportunity given. One of the happiest days of my life was when I landed in American soil. The air of a foreign country smells so different, and the diversity of races of people were overwhelming to the senses. Everything seems new and colorful. The first thing I did after I settled down at my apartment was to call my girlfriend back in Africa on WhatsApp and describe to her how amazing my experience have been so far. In university, I majored in software engineering and minored in computer science. My classes weren't so challenging for me, so I had time to go out and make friends. Being from Africa, my view on racial relations wasn't as adversarial because I or anyone I knew at the time haven't experienced racism, except for what I see on TV. Everyone seemed nice and cordial. I was very excited to meet other race of people. It was a whole new experience, like discovering some long-lost relationships. I have no preconceived prejudice and working with a clean slate. Now, I wasn't completely naive, as I was fully aware of the history of slavery, but it was something that happened in the past. I must admit that I knew nothing about the civil rights movement and Jim Crow, etc. I learned all those topics in the USA. My positive attitude and lack of inhibition made it easier for me to make friends with diverse group of people seamlessly. And the fact that I was intelligent made my course mate to reach out to me to be their study buddy. There were a few fellow Africans in my school, and they always wanted me to hang out with them. But I prefer to learn more about other cultures and make friends with other race so I could assimilate better. I didn't hang out with them as much as they would have liked. Due to my outgoing nature, it was easy for me to interact with girls, and I started dating interracially. I wasn't entirely honest with my girlfriend back in Africa about dating other women because it was difficult to balance a long distance relationship. Moreover, before I left to travel to Africa, she told me that she would wait for me. I still loved her and didn't want to break her heart, which was why I was afraid to be honest with her. I couldn't enjoy my full experience without dating. Moreover, as our life got busier, our interaction became infrequent, but we never stopped texting each other at least once a week. Fast forward to 3 years later, I was in my senior year and due to graduate in the fall. I blew through my university and was due to graduate from a 4 year program in 3 years. I have a job already lined up with a company that will sponsor my visa here in Boston. Before my graduation, I was invited to a birthday party. It was at a mutual friend's party. That was when I met her. Let's call her Sarah. She was so captivating. The moment she walks in the room, all eyes were on her. I didn't see her when she walked in. I just noticed that everyone seemed to be staring at somewhere, and I followed their gaze. And there she was, tall and gorgeous. She came with two female friends. Her beauty stood out amongst the rest. I couldn't help but be drawn to her gentle smile that seemed so welcoming. She would later tell me that she felt the gaze, and she was right. Every guy in the room was staring at her. I remember that I was the only black guy in the room. I mustered up the courage to introduce myself to her. That was the attitude I was raised with. I walked up to her and introduced myself to her friends first, and then to her. I gave her a compliment, and I was feeling the vibe from them. They were responding positively to everything I said. After the initial introductions, I was isolated with Sarah while her other friends spoke to each other. Sarah gravitated towards me and didn't want to leave my side. It was quite strange to me how I felt like we've known each other for a long time when we only met not so long ago. She was asking the right questions and saying the right things. The chemistry was there. She was a law student and was hoping to be a civil rights lawyer. My accent attracted her the most, as it indicated that I was from another country and she wanted to know everything about me. She was exceptionally intelligent and very engaging. Not a dull moment with her, and I wasn't putting an effort to keep the conversation going. One thing that I found unusual was she came across a bit too patronizing. She was putting in too much effort to prove to me that she wasn't racist by telling me how racist other people were and how she went out of her way to condemn people in her past that showed any form of racism in her presence. I had no comments on it and just listened because I couldn't relate, but I admire her passion to defend the rights of others. That was part of her inspiration to focus on civil rights after graduating law school. She also told me how racist her family were, especially her father, and how they were estranged. During our relationship, she went out of her way to show me how tolerant she was. But in the bedroom, it was a different story. She had a strong understanding of how systemically racist the American institutions were and would articulate her observation passionately. She believed that America is systemically racist and the world need to be equal. She had an egalitarian view of the world where everything is equal and everyone should be equal. She had a high regard of herself, so much that she thought she could change the world. I, on the other hand, don't have strong opinion about political and social issues, so I mostly agreed with everything she said. Looking back when we first met, we talked all night at the party. We were in our own little world. She ignored her friends and wanted my full and undivided attention. We didn't want the party to end because that meant that she had to live with her friends. We didn't want to leave each other's side. It was love at first sight. She made an excuse to ditch her friends and joined me at a club after the birthday party. We were grinding on each other and we knew what we wanted. I invited her to my apartment and we left the club. I was living in a 4-bedroom, 4-bath apartment as I had 3 other roommates. We ended up in my bedroom and had the wildest and strangest sex I have ever had. The interesting thing about how submissive she was during excess is she had a thing about master and slave and would vocalize it like a demon is upon her during excess, quite opposite of the well-mannered woman that wouldn't say a single curse word out of the bedroom. It was shocking to see someone that had been preaching about equality and how the world should be an egalitarian utopia and a one race of people. Then the dynamic in the bedroom is entirely different. There is a master and slave thing, and you wouldn't believe that one could use so many derogatory words in one sentence. She was using the N word and black DICK. I am your SLUT, on and on. It was strange and certainly thrilling, but I loved every moment of it. I felt like she was letting out a demon that she had been caging up for so long during the daytime. I thought maybe she grew up in a sheltered home and her parents warned her about specific groups of people, which was why she always had this fantasy. People want something that they are not allowed to have. She told me that I was the first black guy that she had been with. Note that this will be very important in the future. We continued to see each other, and she soon became my girlfriend. When I graduated, she was my only family that cheered for me during the ceremony. I was 20 and she was 21 years old at the time. After graduation, I started working for a tech startup that was already turning profit. I was making good money from the jump, and I was sending money back home to my parents and even my ex-girlfriend in Africa. We didn't break up, we just stopped talking as often. I was sending money to my girlfriend because she would call me asking for school money, and I was paying for her tuition and upkeep. I had made her a promise before I left that I would never forget her, even though she told me that I would. I would like to think that I'm a man of my word. So even though I was in love with another, I was ready to support her financially, especially when a little goes a long way back home. After I graduated and started my job, I rented a nice pad in a nice part of town, and Sarah decided that she wanted to move in. I agreed because she was at my house always, and we got along well. Not a dull moment with her. A few things I found out about her was that she had a high excess drive. The downside is that at times it was exhausting because I couldn't keep up with her. My job was becoming stressful, especially when I had to meet deadlines. I had a talk with her about slowing down from 2 times a day to every other day because it was exhausting. She would agree, but then would restart after 2 weeks. Although the excess was really good, I couldn't keep up with her, and I didn't want to say no to her all the time. So instead of saying no to her, I would stay late at work. Nobody is perfect, and despite her high excess drive, I loved her. And the natural progression of our relationship is to end up together as husband and wife. We planned on getting married after she graduated. About a year into dating, I met her mom and she was welcoming and open to our relationship. But Sarah didn't want me to meet her dad because she told me that he wouldn't approve of our relationship. Being the cultured man that I am, I felt that I needed the permission of the father to wed his daughter. The blessing of the father is important to me because I don't feel like it would end well without it. But she convinced me that it's not the case. Moreover, her parents are separated and she and her dad are estranged. Fast forward 2 years, I was doing well at my job. My salary has increased by over 300% because the company was doing very well. I have become a critical member of the organization. Now my fiancée graduated from law school. During her graduation, her dad showed up. I met her dad and told him my intention to marry his daughter, despite the fact that Sarah told me not to. And sure enough, the a-hole disapproved. We got married anyway, and he wasn't invited. The most difficult call was the one I made to my ex-girlfriend back home, telling her that I was getting married. We must have spent hours on the phone, as she didn't want to let go. She blamed me for making her wait, and that she was telling people that she belongs to me, and has been rejecting men that her father or relative told her about because they were asking for her hand in marriage. I felt like I have betrayed her, but life leads us to different paths that we didn't intend. She told me that she would never get married to anyone if not me. I thought she would get over it, and it was just her getting too emotional. Sarah's stepdad walked her down the aisle. Seeing her in her wedding dress was like the first day I saw her at the birthday party. She was the most beautiful bride that I have ever seen. After our beautiful wedding, life was good. She immediately found a job, and we both bought a brand new house in an affluent neighborhood. I took a day off from work to move while my wife went to work. I thought one person should be present to monitor the move and the people we hired. Sarah had some of her things in storage that she needed to move to the new house. She have had the storage since college, and our apartment wasn't big enough, which is why she left them there till now. I hired a moving company to help us move my wife's item from storage and from our apartment to our brand new house. One of the helpers was moving an old box when I noticed an old picture of my wife from when she was in high school. It piqued my interest. I took the box away from him and started going through the albums of pictures. I searched through the boxes and there were plenty of old pictures of her in high school. Then a picture of her kissing a boy in a kiss booth. The boy in the picture was black. Ah, interesting. I searched further. More pictures of both of them. He was clearly her boyfriend in high school. I haven't been interested in her past relationship, and I haven't asked her about it, except for when she voluntarily told me that she have never dated a black man in the past. I didn't think nothing of it when she said it. For her to have an ex-boyfriend wasn't a problem. Most people have a boyfriend or girlfriend in high school. I had an ex-girlfriend in high school myself, but what I had a problem with was why she had to lie about dating a black person in the past. Does she think this makes me special to be her first black guy she dated? I wouldn't think of her any different if she mentioned or didn't mention it. Those thoughts were running through my mind. I have always trusted her. Until now, she hasn't given me any reason to doubt her. I searched further and saw a picture of a different black man with her at a bar. On the picture, she was a bit older, maybe during her sophomore year in college. He very well may have just been a friend from one of our outreach programs. They weren't affectionate, But that left an imprint in my mind. He must be part of her past life for her to save her photos with him. Maybe I was just being paranoid. Maybe it doesn't really matter. But why should she lie about it? Suddenly, it clicked in my mind. The interracial dirty talk. It's not something she just started. It certainly didn't seem like it. I wasn't her first black guy, and I have always known that it was her thing, and she just had a thing for black men, and was not in love with me, and was only with me for my skin color. That certainly doesn't make me feel special. I struggled with this question over the coming weeks, and I never confronted her about the old pictures that I found. I tried to suppress the thoughts and give her the benefit of the doubt, but it was becoming a distraction. Every time I look at her, I am reminded that she was just with me because of my race. Every time we had sex, it confirms my belief. I began to lose trust in her. I didn't really think she was cheating, but I just had to double check everything she tells me, trying to find out more about her, rather than what I am told. I decided to search her emails and computer login. I hacked her computer and cell phone and retrieved her login credentials for her email and social media. On her emails, I found plane tickets to different cities that she went to when we were still dating that I wasn't aware about. I hacked into her Dropbox since the picture she takes automatically uploads to her Dropbox. I saw a picture of her kissing another black man that I wasn't even aware of. Her Google searches on her phone were interracial porn. I was devastated. Who would have thought my innocent wife would be cheating on me? I haven't even been married to her for more than 6 months before I found all the evidence of her cheating. All the pictures of her with those men were taken while we were in a relationship. One was when she went to spring break, and the other was at Mardi Gras, so she was cheating on me. When she came home that day, I still didn't confront her. It took me about a week to hack through her phone and retrieve deleted data. I found messages of her chatting with an old fling who happened to be, you guessed it, a black guy as well. It turns out that she was having excess with him throughout our relationship, which was hard to believe because most of the time we were having excess every day. How is it that she could have excess with another person and me on the same day? It turns out that during the period when I told her to alternate days to have excess, she was inviting an old fling over to my apartment for excess. The last time I had evidence of her cheating was 8 months ago. It was supposed to be the last time because she told him that she wouldn't cheat after she gets married. Apparently, marriage is where she crossed the line, not engagement, and definitely not the boyfriend and girlfriend phase. It was clear to me that she had an insatiable appetite for excess that I alone can't satisfy. And she has a type as well, and it bothered me that she might only be dating me for that. Logically, you could say that it was just a matter of time before she gets another itch and cheat on me with another black guy. When she came home that day, this time I confronted her with all the evidence that I had collected, and for the first time, she had no answer but to accuse me of invading her privacy and blaming me for not wanting physical intimacy and pushing her away. I asked her why she married me if I was pushing her away. She claimed that it was because she loved me, and my race doesn't have anything to do with it. I wanted to believe her so badly. She wasn't even convincing. She promised that she would change and she would go to therapy, and I told her that it's too early in our marriage to be going to therapy. She asked me if beside the cheating, haven't she been a perfect wife? I responded that being faithful is the number one component required to stay in the relationship. I told her that we might as well just separate before we hurt each other going down this road. After the heated argument, we both sat down on the dining table and had a frank conversation. We decided that we should separate for 3 months to decide if this is what we wanted. During those 3 months, I decided to visit my home country for the first time. It was a hell of a homecoming party. I was happy to see my family and friends, and of course my ex-girlfriend. It's been over 7 years since I last saw her, and she was as beautiful as ever. She came to my family home to see me when she heard that I was back. We were never intimate during our relationship, and to my surprise, she never dated anyone else. When we were alone together, I asked her why she wasn't married yet. And believe me when I say that she was one of the most attractive women in the area where I come from, so I knew her value is high. She responded that she was waiting for me. I laughed when she told me that because I thought she was joking, but when I looked in her face, she was dead serious. I looked in her eyes when she said that, and she actually meant it. I asked her why she would trust a man that lied to her and only told her the truth when I got married, and she said that she was praying to God and she had faith in God. I thought she was crazy and superstitious, but I had good bumps, thinking that it was God's plan all along. Maybe it was part of the experience or lesson for me to learn in this journey called life. I left her feeling good about our future prospect. The third time we met each other, I came to visit her. This time, I saw her father. He always hated me when I was a kid, but he was glad to see me. We exchanged pleasantries. Her dad told me that I had done juju on his daughter because she refused to marry any suitor that came for her. He told me to stop sending her money and to tell her to marry someone else since I've already married someone else overseas. He said she refused to eat anything and was sick for days when she found out that I got married. I planned on staying in Africa for a month before going back to the States, and most of my time was spent with my ex-girlfriend. It was clear to me that she was the one that I should have married to all along, and fate would have that we meet again. I don't know if it's destiny or by design, but here we are. When I went back to the state, I hired a divorce lawyer and told my wife, Sarah, that we should be getting a divorce. They say that one can't love two people at the same time, but I loved them both, so the divorce wasn't easy for me. Sarah cried and begged for me to give us another chance, but I don't know how real it was because she had been cheating on me for the entirety of our relationship and was only with me for her weird fantasy. We are currently working through the divorce process, and I have to wait for 6 months before bringing my ex-girlfriend over. Or should I call her fiancé now? I plan to file a petition for alien fiancé so we can marry in the US. But first, I have to go back to Africa when the divorce is finalized for the traditional wedding. Thank you for staying to the end of this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Please hit the thumbs up so the YouTube algorithm will promote my videos. Thank you and